This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder.
Doug Worple and his wife Becca sold their Cincinnati home in the midst of the pandemic and ended up on a farm in Vermont with their 4 golden retrievers. This led to a business. They came up with the idea to socialize their pups through the Golden Retriever experience, in which people can visit their farm and play with their dogs and those of their neighbors. Doug joins us via Zoom from Jeffersonville, Vermont. Hi, Doug.
Hey, how you doing today?
Just tickety-boo. Thanks very much for being on the program with us. Let's go back to when this all began, and that is, in the pandemic, you decided to sell your home and move to Vermont. Why Vermont in particular?
Well, actually, there was a step in between. So we sold our house and then we bought an RV and we traveled the country during the pandemic. We called it kind of the Great National Park and Real Estate Tour. So we, it wasn't like you'd go to a city and go shopping and try all the great restaurants. Nobody was, interacting. So, but that didn't change the natural beauty of the national parks. And everywhere we went, we were like, well, could you see us living here? In the places that we liked, we looked at real estate and primarily looking at things that were properties that had enough space or land for us to be doing something outside. We looked at an avocado farm. We looked at a cherry farm. We looked at it like a cattle ranch. Like my former job was in advertising, and I wanted to be doing something outside, more tangible. And we looked at a lot of stuff. We drove 17,000 miles. We went through 35 different states, kind of did it in a methodical way. And we were in the Northeast that fall and saw this property. After much contemplation, there was a lot more here to bite off than we were kind of initially looking for, because there's a vineyard, there's 200 orchard trees. We've got a sugar woods that now has 4,500 taps. We have beehives. My wife's a beekeeper now. We have 30 hives. And any kind of one of those would have kind of scratched the itch that I was looking for, she was looking for, in terms of doing something outside and making something. But all of them together were a little bit overwhelming. But we decided, well, we don't have to do everything. And if we do everything, we don't have to do everything well, that we have the grace to make some mistakes and see what happens.
Okay, so before you embarked on buying this farm in Vermont, did either one of you either grow up in a rural situation or live in a rural situation at some point? Or were you city slickers who decided farm life was for me? In other words, was this a modern day telling of Green Acres?
Yeah, it's a little bit like Gabor and Oliver, right? Oliver! But I grew up in Iowa. I did a little bit of field work as a teenager, just because that was the way, like, you made summer money. And my dad worked at John Deere. My grandparents were on farms, but no, nothing. We were both city people for the most part. So all of this is new. And even what I did in Iowa, had nothing to do with what we do with now. It was all row crop stuff.
Okay, so let's get to the dogs. You have these 4 golden retrievers. First of all, did they travel with you in the RV as well? Did you have those from your days in Cincinnati?
So we had 3 dogs in Cincinnati. 2 of them joined us in the RV. One was older. His name's Boo. He stayed with my wife's parents while we traveled. And then when we moved here, we got a 4th, Uncle Lenny. So we had Boo, Dewey, Uncle Lenny, and Mar. And Mar is actually a Black Lab Bernese Mountain Dog mix. So she's the Black Lab of the family, as we say.
So when did you come up with the idea of the Golden Retriever experience? How did that begin for you?
It's an interesting, there's kind of 2 aspects to that. The first is, we've always loved golden retrievers, and as we were thinking about having that additional space, one of the big benefits of having it was so that we could have more retrievers. And we've always thought it would be great to do something where we would host people and we would have all the golden retrievers and they would be part of whatever the experience was, a farm tour or coming to make wine or whatever, but you'd be surrounded by the Goldens. When we were looking at real estate, when we came to this property, on the way here, we were in Stowe and we saw Dana Minnie and his wife Susan, who owned Butternut Goldens, and he was driving around with a pickup full of golden retrievers. And my wife's like, pull over, right? You've got an RV. It's not like you just pull off to the side of the road. So I found a parking lot, pulled in. She chased him down at an intersection, introduced herself, and just to try to understand what he was doing. and he lives on a farm as well. And he takes the dogs out in the pickup almost every day, if not every day, and takes them to it could be a microbrewery or a restaurant or to the ski slopes, but just so they meet people. Because if you don't get the dogs out and meet people on a farm, then they don't see anybody, and then that's that socialization thing that we were talking about. So we became friends after we moved here. It took a while for us to see him again, because it was the middle of COVID. But as we became friends, they're like, could we host a puppy event at your house where their puppies meet their new prospective parents? And we're like, yeah, we'd love that. And that was amazing. The people loved it. And we were like, we've always thought about doing something where people would interact with the golden retrievers. And would that be something you'd be up for with your adult dogs? They had 14 adult dogs at that time. They have 13 now. And they were like, yeah, we've always thought it would be great to do something. We just didn't have a place to do it. So we very much of like minds. And so kind of our vision for what we might do with golden retrievers really was able to accelerate, because they already have a very well-trained, completely socialized group of adult dogs that are used to being around tons of strangers and love to play. And so last September, we did the puppy event, and then we were like, okay, let's put a couple of dates on the calendar in October. And we did. And it was like crickets. There was nobody booked anything. And then someone scraped some of the content from our Instagram account where we had announced that we were doing this and put it in things to do in Vermont during fall foliage. And that blew up, and it had 4 or 5 million views, and we sold out overnight. I mean, we literally went to bed with maybe 2 reservations and woke up the next day, everything was sold out. And so we started adding dates, and the publicity has continued to grow, and everything is always sold out. And what we kind of are figuring out is how much can we, how much do we want to do this? Because if we put it on the calendar, it sells out. And first we were like, as many days as we could, and then we started to get a little bit exhausted because we still had all those other things to do here on the farm, and balancing everything became a little bit tricky. But we're on top of it now.
So for people who want to go through the Golden Retriever experience, what exactly does that pertain to? How much does it cost? And how many puppies or how many Golden Retrievers are there? I mean, there's your 4, there's the ones from AKC Golden Retrievers. What total is that as far as Goldens are concerned?
So typically there's 13 to 15 adult Goldens. A couple of their Goldens, butternut Goldens, are a little bit older. So sometimes they're up for coming, sometimes they're not. With dogs, it's just like people. Sometimes one will be sick, one just had a cyst removed, and is in no shape to interact with people yet. But 13 to 15 adults. Since we've been doing this, there haven't been any litters of puppies, so we haven't had that experience yet. But what people can expect when they come is the dogs, the big group of dogs, the ones that don't live here on the farm, are going to arrive in a pickup truck that's been specially designed for them to travel in, and their heads are all going to be sticking out the back. It's the coolest thing, and they know when they're in the truck and people come up, they're very calm and they're just happy to be cuddled. But then when they see the tennis racket or the tennis ball and they know it's time to play, the tailgate on the truck drops, they fire out of there. It's like popping a cork out of a bottle of champagne. Dana and Susan kind of show people how to play with the dogs. They live for the ball. They love to chase it. So we have about a half hour of playing ball with them until they, kind of tucker out. And then this time of year, we have an event barn, wood burning fireplaces. We serve hot chocolate, and everybody goes in, and the dogs come in, and we close the doors, and the dogs just work the crowd for hugs and cuddles. And then my wife, Becca, is a professional photographer. So throughout the event, she's taking pictures, but we also stage a couple of photos. So everybody that comes, walks away with a picture of themselves or their group with just them and the big happy of Goldens. So everybody has a keepsake or memento.
And what's the reaction from the folks who are either after they've completed this or even during the time that they enjoy the Golden Retriever experience?
Everybody's incredibly happy to the point of tears sometimes. It is the best time. I mean, we hear all the time, this is the best day ever. We will have people who visit who've recently lost a dog or grew up with a dog but can't have one now. And they're just kind of overwhelmed with emotion. It's an amazing setting. We sit within kind of unobstructed and nothing between us and Mount Mansfield. So you have this beautiful mountain backdrop, ponds in between. And the dogs, the butternut Goldens, they're so well trained, they're not wearing collars. And so, they pile out and it's just these dogs that are running free. And it's amazing. And people love it. Like people giggle. Like it's just when they come out of the truck, people gasp. It's just almost kind of overwhelming and how happy a moment it is.
Your business must be great business for Butternut Hill Golden Retrievers, because I'm assuming that after spending part of an afternoon or a day up at your location talking or playing with the dogs, that everybody who doesn't have one wants one.
Yeah, what's interesting, it's for sure the case, but what's interesting, I would have guessed before we ever started this that most of the people that would come would have golden retrievers and love golden retrievers the way that we do, and they just would want to be surrounded by a bigger group of them. But I'd say a huge chunk of folks, they're coming from Montreal or Boston or New York City, and they're living in situations where they can't have dogs. And so this is a way for them to get that fix and that fill. And then there are people who are kind of between dogs, and for sure they want to know the next time the Butternut family is going to have a litter. There's a lot of people ask if they can adopt, one of the dogs that are there that day. But the thing is, these dogs are either our family members or their family members, right? Like it's like asking to adopt someone's child just because you had a play date with them. It's like, no, that's not what this is about. Like, we're not trying to adopt out these dogs. When there are puppies, of course, but this is us just sharing what makes us happy with other people.
So for people who want more information, they can go to your website, which is goldendogfarm.com. I assume that they can book times and even pay for the experience right from your website?
Yeah, everything is bookable. You make a reservation right from the website. It's super simple.
I would also assume that you're very, very busy. So if someone listening to this right now said, gee, this is something I want to do, how far ahead do they have to book?
We've had a wave of great publicity. And so we're in the last issue of People magazine.
Which is where I saw you, by the way. Yes.
Yeah. And just prior to that, we were on Good Morning America about 2 weeks ago. So our calendar really booked up fast. So if people want to visit, there are some summer dates out there. Anything in the short term, April, early May, all of that, like every date we have on the calendar is already sold out. But as you look to the summer and fall, which are prime times to visit Vermont, and particularly to visit this part of Vermont, they'll definitely be able to find a time that hopefully will work for everybody.
Well, congratulations on your success, and congratulations with the Golden Retriever experience. And Doug, thank you very, very much for being on the show with us.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on today. We love telling our story, and we love sharing it with your listeners. So thank you. I really do appreciate you reaching out.
Doug Worple, who along with his wife Becca run the Golden Retriever experience on their Vermont farm. You can go to my website at thestufffile.com, check out the show number for this program, which is show number 0763, and you'll find the link to their site where you can find the pricing and dates and book your very own experience.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestufffile.com. Stuph is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestufffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.